Welcome back. Don't forget to subscribe to the Past Crimes channel and hit the like button. Joe and Louetta Long gave birth to Robert Joseph Long on October 14, 1953, in Canova, West Virginia. Long was born with an extra X chromosome, a variant of Klinefelter syndrome known as 47XXY. This condition causes excessive estrogen production, which results in some female characteristics such as breast development. Long was teased as a child because of his large breasts, and he had breast reduction surgery as an adolescent. He had also suffered multiple head injuries as a child as a result of various accidents. Long married his high school sweetheart in 1974 and had 2 children with her before she filed for divorce in 1980. Long was charged, tried, and convicted of rape in 1981, but he was acquitted on appeal. Long committed at least 50 rapes in Fort Lauderdale, Ocala, Miami, and Dade County as the classified ad rapist. Long began contacting women through the Penny Saver and other classified ads around 1981. In 1983, Long relocated to the Tampa Bay area. Long raped and strangled 20-year-old Artis Wick in March 1984. While on probation for assault, her body was discovered in a rural area on November 22, 1984. She was engaged to be married and had hitchhiked from Gas City, Indiana to Tampa. June T. Lana Long, a 19-year-old exotic dancer at Nebraska Avenue's Sly Fox Lounge, was discovered dead in a field on May 13. She was naked and tied with a cord around her neck. A white scarf was tied in a knot beneath her body. Michelle Simms, a 22-year-old former beauty pageant contestant, was discovered dead off an Interstate 4 overpass 2 weeks later. Simms, too, was naked and bound, her throat slit. Her clothes were on the floor next to her. Simms worked as a receptionist but was also a drug user and involved in sex work, according to reports. Elizabeth Loudenbach, 22 years old, was discovered fully clothed in an orange grove on June 24, 1984. She was raped and strangled. Loudenbach worked in a factory and had never been involved in prostitution. She was walking down Nebraska Avenue just blocks from her home on the evening of June 8 when she was abducted by Long. Forensic analysis confirmed that these murders were all connected. Tiny red nylon fibers, likely from carpet, were discovered on Simms and Loudenbach's clothing, as well as the white scarf found under Lana Long. Long's 5th victim was 21-year-old Vicki Elliott, who disappeared September 7, 1984, on her way home from waitressing at the Ramada Inn. Elliott's body was not found until November 16, 1984. She had been strangled. Chanel Williams, 18, was discovered dead on October 7. Williams, a sex worker, was also kidnapped on Nebraska Avenue. Her profile was distinct from the previous victims in that she was the only black victim, she had not been bound, and she had died from a gunshot wound. She was naked, and her clothes were lying next to her. However, forensic examinations of Williams' clothing revealed the presence of those tiny red fibers. Karen Dinsfriend, 28 years old, was discovered dead in an orange grove a week later. She'd been strangled and beaten to death. Dinsfriend had been a prostitute on Nebraska Avenue as well. She had been bound and had ligature marks on her neck. On October 31, 1984, the remains of 22-year-old Kimberly Hops were discovered on the side of U.S. Route 301 North, but her murder was not immediately attributed to Bobby Joe Long. She was naked, but the elements had rendered her body unrecognizable. Too much time had passed for forensic evidence to be collected from the scene. Lisa McVey, 17, was riding her bike home from Krispy Kreme around 2 a.m. on November 3, 1984. A man charged at her, knocking her off her bike and dragging her into his car. He blindfolded her, drove her to his house, and raped her over the course of 26 hours. Unbeknownst to Long, McVay had seriously considered suicide just hours before the attack. Due to years of emotional and sexual abuse at the hands of her grandmother's boyfriend, she'd even written a note. McVay attempted to communicate with her captor despite the fact that he had repeatedly raped her and sodomized her. McVay asked Long why he had done this to her in a strange act of kindness while Long washed and brushed her hair in his bathroom. He blamed it on his hatred of women. Her attempts to connect with serial killer Bobby Joe Long probably saved her life. McVay used the bathroom in Long's apartment while blindfolded and touched everything she could to leave her fingerprints. Long ordered a still blindfolded McVay back into his car in the early hours of November 4th. She took note of his red carpet and counted the steps in his house. He began by driving a short distance to a 24-hour bank machine. Long drove a little further, pulled over, and instructed McVay to get out of the car and wear her blindfold for another 5 minutes. He then drove away. Lisa McVey immediately went to the police station and told them everything. She explained that her kidnapper had used a bank machine shortly before her release. Forensic tests on McVay's clothing revealed the same red carpet fibers found on the other victims. Then the remains of 2 more victims were discovered, Virginia Johnson on November 6th and Kim Swan on November 12th. Johnson's bones were all that remained, but a ligature cord was discovered at the scene. Swan, a former Sly Fox dancer, had ligature marks on her neck and wrists. Both crime scenes had the same red carpet fibers. Long first confessed to his crimes against McVay during his interrogation. He initially denied any involvement in the other murders, but after hearing the evidence, particularly the red carpet fibers from his car, he confessed. By the end of his interrogation, detectives had linked Long to 10 murders as well as McVay's rape and kidnapping. The Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office and the Hillsborough County Public Defender's Office reached a plea agreement. Long pled guilty on September 24, 1985, to 8 of the homicides and the abduction and rape of Lisa McVey. Long was later sentenced to life in prison for murder, rape, including those committed as the classified as rapist, and kidnapping. He was sentenced to death for the murder of Michelle Simms. Long's death warrant was signed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on April 23, 2019. It was DeSantis' first death warrant since taking office in January 2019. Following the denial of his subsequent appeals, Long was executed by lethal injection on May 23, 2019, more than 30 years after his conviction. Lisa McVey Nolan sat in the front row, watching Long's execution. Based on her experiences, she pursued a career in law enforcement and is now a deputy at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, the same office that brought Bobby Joe Long to justice.